Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining us for episode 20 of the Survive and Thrive Challenge. I'm Laura Brandao, the president of AFR, and we are here to open our hearts and our minds as we share our personal and professional journeys as we adapted to our new world. On today's show, from Arizona, we have Mo Hernandez. She is the broker owner of Arizona Lending Specialist. From Minnesota, we have Julie Isbey. Hey, she is the Senior Vice President of Human Capital at Amerisave. And from Dallas, Texas, we have Sarah Gonzalez. She is the Chief Operating Officer at First Guaranteed Mortgage. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us this week. Okay, Mo, we're diving in. Take us back. Here we are, the beginning to middle of March. We're hearing about shelter in place. We're going through many crazy things happening in the mortgage industry. Tell us, what was that initial reaction? What was happening in your world, professionally and personally?
In the middle of March, when all of this started to culminate and become a little more than it's just over there or it's just over there, we were at an industry event in Irvine, California, and just getting completely pumped up for 2020, ending the first quarter, getting ready to come back to Arizona, hit the ground running, and we ran into a brick wall. So, emotionally, it was very trying because we knew what we were capable of, but received, just constant daily notifications of programs being removed, rates increasing, just almost a cease in business. So professionally, it was very trying because it was very emotional because we had, of course, everybody wanted to break out and beat records for 2020. On a personal level with my family, it was also very trying emotionally because my children, I was away on this trip and then flew to Nevada to meet with my family. Our daughter plays competitive softball. So I flew there to meet them for a tournament. And then when we finally came home to Arizona, we came home to no more school. So it was very weird to come home from a business trip and then a personal family trip for softball to nothing. So it was very emotional. The peaks and valleys of it was very trying. Just trying to stay positive, right? Because if mom breaks down, everybody breaks down. But it was very trying on a lot of different levels. Just trying to, like, the bull just kept, I wanted to keep going and going, but I just kept running into brick wall and brick wall. So that, for me professionally and personally, it was very trying, very emotional for me.
Wow. So yes, we were actually at the event together. So I do recall, we literally, you described it perfectly, Mo. It was literally coming together almost to conquer the world, right? We were like, this is going to be the most incredible year. But yes. I also recall while we were in California, I think Los Angeles County had actually just announced that they were doing shelter in place and all while we were at the event. Right. And all of us were like, maybe yeah, what do we do now? Right? What's happening? We're having fun. Things are great. And I think you're right. So now, okay, you go to the event, you go to the competitive sports, then you come back. What kind of emotions? I mean, is it literally like a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of, I've had people previously say, I was angry because I felt I had this. And no, this isn't fair, that it's not going to go the way I thought that I was going to control. So what emotions were going through you?
For my family, let me say this.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest turmoil that we had was really just trying to figure out what to do, because very selfishly, and I don't know if anybody has said this before, but very selfishly, I was like, great, the kids are going to be home and I don't have to worry about anything for a little while. But I didn't anticipate, I don't think any of us did, thinking that it was going to last through the end of the school year. So professionally, yeah, it was just trying to piece together how to continue with the plan that we had set in motion for 2020. And I think that that was an opportunity for us to just break it apart and figure out, okay, if this path is giving us some resistance, then what else can we do? So my team and I, we literally just dove headfirst into as many webinars as we could.
Great.
We tried and we learned different ways of communication, how to improve back office, because at the end of the day, if there was going to be a slowdown, that just meant there was time to concentrate on improving maybe the back office. And that's what I made for our team goal, was improving as much as we could for the back office. So when this, eased up a little bit, we would be ready for those floodgates to open.
And little did you know the floodgates were already open, right? Little did you know that
any of us did.
And then before we move on to Julie, just one other question of when all these, all the lenders, all of us were changing guidelines, we were coming out with, at points it felt like every minute we were making decisions of now this changed. How did you deal with that with a pipeline of families?
So I'm really big on communication and just really serving from the heart. So I had to have a lot of really tough conversations with my pipeline, with my customers. A lot of them were losing jobs. A lot of them were being put on hold. A lot of them didn't know if they were going to make it. So I think that the best thing that we can do, it's almost like ripping off a Band-Aid. You don't do it slow. You have to do it fast so that you can come to a solution as fast as possible. We really just, we are in the middle, right? So we receive the information and then we have to, then invest it in the best way possible for our clients. So the best thing that we were able to do was just have very hard but honest conversations with our clients and let them know it's not a no, it's a no, it's a no right now. Let's see how this plays out. And luckily, we literally can honestly say we only lost one client. Everybody else just stuck it out, figured it out. A lot of people got nervous, what was going to happen to the economy, what was going to happen to real estate. So we here for my team, very lucky that we literally only lost one because of the changes in the programs. We lost one to another competitor here in town who was still able to do, a specific FICO loan. Right. But I think, for us, what worked was just having heart to heart, but honest conversations with our pipeline.
Awesome. Wonderful. Okay. All right, Julie, what was happening in your world during this time?
Like most of us, I experienced this change as a traumatic shift. Right? If you remember how busy we were right before it happened, the market was just getting ready to take off for spring market, or already had, based on where you lived. I was in Colorado at the time. I was doing non-QM.
Okay.
And I was 2 years into building the business when I suddenly lost it. Right?
Ooh.
Our company went out quickly. I had brought my adult son into the business. He instantly lost his job. So,
oh, wow.
It forces you to put your life into perspective, first of all. Hey, I'm on a podcast, okay?
See, we were just saying. See, it's
okay.
I'm not alone.
That was perfect timing, Julie.
Yes, it was.
That's cute. I love that kid.
This is part of our new normal.
That's right. That's right. So, I'm also outside of the industry. I'm a performance coach.
Oh.
And one of the things that I wanted to note is that for a long time in multiple industries everywhere, people have been just, it's like palatable out there that people have been tremendously uncertain about how to move forward, how to progress. In our industry, we were hit with all those refinances already during the past year. We've been shifting capacity-wise. How do we bring enough people in? In other industries, people also, they're trying to scale up, but they're so burned out. You know, they were trying to work so hard or be so driven, but wondering if they were focused on the right things. People want to go for their dreams, but they're not sure they're going to fail at it if they leave their job and go do a dream. So these are the topics that you deal with in coaching every day. And what I noticed after the crisis, or I'm going to call COVID a crisis, after the COVID shift, people got just so much more focused on true meaning, what was really going to drive meaning in their life and what they really wanted. For me, I ended up staying out of the job market for 2 or 3 months, and just really settling in and figuring out what I wanted to do next. And then somehow, some way, my dream job came in this position that I'm in right now. And so, you know, I went from all that chaos to being just so grateful. I'm in the middle of a move from Colorado to Minnesota. We're building a new team. I am so lucky and fortunate. So we always have to retain our hope and our belief that no matter what happens, we can get through it. We can find our way, even if it takes us a while in the middle of it, right? I'm so glad.
And that's so interesting, Julie. I mean, when you think about it now, the company that you worked for was one of the first casualties, right? Casualties of COVID in the mortgage industry. And I remember the day it happened, because I was like, I'm seeing visions of 2007. You know, like all of a sudden you're looking at this going, is this going to be a ripple? Like it's only the start. Now, thankfully, that wasn't the case, and thank goodness. But I remember having that feeling, and I'm sure lots of us in the industry had that feeling because we did not know. But then, like what you just said, it turned out to be a blessing that it just got you to something better and a new adventure that you're enjoying. So that's interesting. So, all right, take me back to, because you said one thing that I definitely need to hear more of, because I'm the mom of an adult son that also works at her company. And I could just imagine thinking to myself, not only am I not employed, now my adult child also. So tell me from mom perspective, how are you dealing with that?
Oh, pain, right?
Yes.
But if your son is going to be in the mortgage business, he has to learn early that these things happen.
Ups and downs, right?
These things happen. You have to be resilient. And it creates a new wisdom. And so we worked really quickly, got him replaced. He got back to Charlotte where he lives, and he is happy as happy can be in a new role now. But I saw him grow up a lot going through that, and his buddies, because we did the same thing at Deep Haven that we're going to do here. Is we did solicit a lot of young talent and teach them mortgage from the ground up. And so all of these people were going through shock and awe that this can happen on a dime. My dream can go away like that.
Yeah. Welcome to the mortgage business.
Exactly.
Wow. Interesting. All right. Sarah, what was happening in your world?
Yeah, so I kind of have an interesting story. I'm actually going to go back a couple of months because as an executive team, we all kind of came back from Christmas break. It was about that second week of January. And we have these weekly meetings, I'm sure just like everybody else does. And one of the topics that popped up in one of those meetings was, have you guys seen this thing on what they're calling COVID? Yeah. And, it was an immediate ripple effect between the team to say, yes, I know this. Yes, I know that. Here's, what I know. And we found out very quickly that we had to start putting some plans in place. So we started doing our research. We started looking at the numbers from a health perspective. What was the World Health Organization saying? What was the CDC saying? And we put together a plan by the 1st of February that we were ready to execute on. So we were already putting together those plans and had actually done a test with our employees, sending them all home. Awesome. Right? Could we actually survive having to send every single person home, and would our network hold up to that? And we learned things through that, right? We learned that we needed more server capacity. We learned how many tickets would be coming in from folks that needed assistance on doing things. And so when that time came at the end of March for us to actually move our employee set from there to basically at that time, we didn't know it was going to be full-time, but virtually we're full-time work from home now. We're about 98% remote. We're thriving as an organization. And I would even debatably say that we're more productive. We've certainly learned a lot of things, and we'll continue those things as we journey into the future. So, we put together a very strong communication strategy with our groups, not only at the executive level, but filtered all the way down through the whole organization. And those strategies are still in play today, and they will continue on a go-forward basis. So from a work perspective, I feel like we're in a really good place. And, I thought, when, I came into our organization in about mid 2018, and a lot of work had to be done when I arrived here. So, we're a 30+ year organization. So anybody that knows probably what was going on, 10, 20 years ago, we have changed substantially with regards to how the organization is ran, what it looks like, and things of that nature. So, continuity of business was a huge thing that we focused on in 2018. And so when this came, we were ready. Now, that could just be attributed to being fresh on the brain and being ready for that to happen. But at the same time, I feel like we did a really good job educating our employees and getting them to a point where they were able to go work from their homes and be productive. From a personal perspective, I have a lot of similar stories as Mo. I arrive at home, my kids are still in school, and I'm thinking this is going to happen with schools. It's only a matter of time. And it literally took less than 5 days for my kids to be sent home. And then the very next thing was my husband losing his job due to COVID. And we had to sit down as a family and really talk about, what did that mean for our family? Both of us are working parents. I travel probably about 30 to 40% of the time pre-COVID. And so, we had to make some hard decisions. We had to say, okay, well, mom can't, be running a company and doing schoolwork and, cooking and cleaning and all the other things that a lot of us that are moms do. There were compromises that had to be made. And my husband, thankfully, we were on the same page. It's like, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to focus on the kids, let you, continue your work. I'm going to help in the afternoons. And I had just made the, when everything kind of happened, I was in the middle of making a decision to go back to school. And so that was another big thing, was like, do I continue that? And, I'm thriving. With those decisions, while they were super hard in the spring, I'm not going to say there's not tough days, but, we're surviving. We're doing what we need to do. I think that's part of just human nature. And being vulnerable, right? Being okay to say it's not okay, or I'm doing great, or whatever those things are. I have a lot of really candid conversations with my directs and parts of my staff. I feel it's important. Communication is like huge. I couldn't agree with more Mo on whether we're talking about, I'm sorry about the phone, talking about, just personal communication or professional, but a lot of the same stories Julie and Mo walk through, being open with our clients, being open with our families about what we need and not being scared to ask for help. Anybody that really knows who I am knows that I hate asking for help. It's like, my kryptonite. Like, I don't need to ask for help.
That seems to be a common theme among successful women.
But you have to do that. And one of the things I found out about myself through all of this was I was surprisingly calm. It was very, very strange. I think being in these high-ranking positions and, trying to meet numbers and, making sure hundreds and thousands of employees are happy. A lot of times we can be neurotic, right? We're trying to control everything. We're trying to make sure everybody's happy. And if I'm lying here, then please tell me. But, I literally had conversations with my parents and my husband, and even my husband would say, you are really calm for everything that is going on right now. So,
but don't you think because we are responsible for our teams, for our clients, for our families, don't you think when something crazy happens, a crisis, a trauma, something, don't you think we kind of like step in to be like, all right, I've got this. Like, I'm going to be the cool as a cucumber person to kind of lead the way and pull it forward. I think that, because I got to tell you, I had the same thing. It was almost like, all right, it's time to get the Superwoman cape out because I have to make sure the company's okay. I have to make sure the team, my family, everybody. And I think, Sarah, I appreciate you sharing that because, although most people, sure, we all had our anxiety. We all were a little like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? But I think we also have this sense of, I'm going to make it better, right, in some way. So I love that you're saying you had that sense of calm at that moment.
Look, I'm not saying anything that anybody else on this call would not say, or anybody that's listening. We're leaders, and it's our responsibility to maintain that temperature, whether we're talking about home or with our employees. I think one of the best practices, and I'll continue to do this as well, is, my management style is very, people are people to me. They're not a number on a sheet, and I will talk to whoever I need to talk to. I'm not scared to make those calls. And one of the things that I learned through this whole process is I knew I had to connect with people that I maybe had not necessarily connected with before. So, I still to this day, I speak to new hires on Mondays. I call them all individually on Fridays and I check in on them. And people say, do you have time for that? And I'm like, I will make the time.
You have to, right?
And it's about making them, feel like they're still engaged, they're still connected with their company. And, it's no like single praise for myself. This is who our company is, right? That we're very focused on making sure that people are treated that way. So, there's a lot of lessons I learned, Laura.
Oh, wait, hold the lessons. We're coming back to that. All right, Mo. All right, so you made it through. The kids are now at home. You're getting used to all the volume. You've made it through that initial pipeline that the guidelines have changed and everything. Now here we are, week 20 of me doing Survive and Thrive here. Tell me, what are some of those lessons that you've learned to where you've said, you know what? If the magic wand comes out and everything went back to February, what would you continue to do based on some of the things you learned?
I think the ladies are right. There's so much that we can self-reflect on ourselves of how we were pre-COVID and how we are now. And that statement that you just made, if it all goes away tomorrow again, how will we survive? and something that we as a team, individually as well, are trying to really do for ourselves and for our families is really just keep that communication alive and open constantly with our families. Some of us have been in the business for decades. Some of us have just come into the business last year. But no matter what, our book of business will follow us through whatever journey we go through. So that's something, like I said, something that we concentrated on during the downtime. For us, really, I want to say March was really our only downtime, because it was such a halt.
Mm-hmm.
April and May, we were gunning and running. But for the biggest lesson, I think, is really just nurturing those relationships and making sure that we are who they think of, not only for mortgage, but for anything that has to do with advice, a source of information, just because we try to nurture that relationship so much so that we're always going to be the first one that they call. Hey, Mo, who would I call if I needed, a plumber? Who would I, not necessarily, anything just related with real estate, but, to say from mortgages to kitchen recipes, everything and anything in between. We want to be the ones who they come to, who they think of. So that's the biggest lesson, because as our industry continuously becomes more automated and faster, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I do appreciate the speed that we have compared to, a year or years ago. But the human touch is what I truly believe is the biggest lesson here, because we can connect, engage, and just really be able to create and nurture those relationships that will last forever. So that, for me and for our team, is the biggest way for us to continue to survive and thrive to whatever comes.
I think you're right. And look at how we all need that human connection and that relationship. I think we all have felt how much we need that as humans. As humans, we all need it. So you're 100% correct, Mo, that, you don't just want to say, okay, call me the next time you purchase a home, in the future, or, if the rates go down. It is having that bond and relationship with them. So, and I think we've all learned how valuable that is. So absolutely. All right, Julie, what's the lessons learned?
Well, I just want to say I'm loving the themes that I'm hearing here. Both Sarah and Mo are talking about the connection points. I love your idea about calling your new hires on Friday. Think about how important that is in a remote environment. And so I think we're rethinking everything that maybe we used to do in the office and how we can do it well. So kudos, ladies, because I think those are the important things. I really do. I know that in my work, I'm trying to help people really seek more clarity, because as the world becomes more automated and we have people working at home with more distractions, they're not used to the distractions at home, kids, dogs, husbands, a whole gamut, right? We have to really help people seek clarity, first, not only on the job at hand, but who they want to be in the job, how they want to interact with others in this new environment, in a way that will give them the most meaning and the most feeling of fulfillment in their life and in their jobs. I'm also talking to people about how you have to generate energy purposefully in this environment. You have to generate physical energy. Remember to get up and move or breathe or take a break, pulse between concentrating and renewing, whether it's just a really quick little renewal or not, because at home you can get really sucked in to the computer and forget to eat your lunch or, to do whatever. So generating that energy so you can maintain your focus and your well-being is really critical to people being able to perform in this new environment. So I'm talking about that a lot. People are stressed out. I mean, I think they are. I'm talking to a lot of parents who are dealing with so many unknowns. that they don't know what school's going to look like. They're not sure how they're going to handle the schedule. And a lot of people believe their kids will go back to school and then come home 2 weeks later if something doesn't go the right way, you know. So we have to help them handle all those issues, but at the same time create the necessity to get through the mountain of work in front of them.
Yeah.
Because it's so busy, you know.
So how do you recommend doing that, Julie? Like, because sorry, doorbell's ringing. How do you recommend doing that? You know, if we have team members, because you're right, the school question mark is a big sense of anxiety I hear it all day long from my team members saying, we're not sure. Like you said, we're afraid they're going to go and then they're going to come back a few weeks later. Or do I just have them do online? Am I making the right decision? There's so many questions and so much worry around this. How do we help as leaders? How do we help our teams with these types of questions?
I don't know how we help people with fear other than to hear them. Right. And to explore, you know, and support the idea that, well, no matter what it is, we'll handle it. We'll figure it out. But I think being really super clear on productivity issues about making sure that people are focused on the right projects. Right. And making progress. I know in our group, we've gotten very organized about our project management, so to speak. And so I think the importance of being really organized with regard to those tactical projects so that when you have time to be productive, you can really narrow in and get it done.
Right. That's great. That's great. Good. And I guess, like we said, we do have to give them some flexibility, obviously, right? Yeah. We know that they need to have that flexibility. And I think as an industry, I mean, I agree with you, Sarah. I mean, listen, kudos to our entire industry because we adapted so well. All of the companies, right? From the smallest to the largest, we did it. I mean, we got used to, I remember that first week saying, how are we getting appraisals? What are we going to do about closing loans where they don't have remote online notarization? How are we doing this? Yeah. And it all happened. I mean, very quickly, the organizations came together and everybody, you know, said, this is what we're going to do. And they changed guidelines. And I've never seen in the history of my time in the mortgage business, I've never seen people step into action as fast as that happened. So it was wonderful. And that's another joy of why I love doing these calls, because we come together as an industry and we all have the same story, right? Overwhelming volume, everybody having to work remotely, the flexibility, and yet we're all doing it. We all adapted and we're thriving very nicely as an industry together. So that's wonderful. And we have to continue to be proud of our industry because, you know, we've got a lot of work to do, a lot of families to help. That's for sure. All right, Sarah, what have you learned? You were just about to say your lessons. Tell us.
No, it's okay. Sorry, I was getting anxious. You know, I'm gonna, you know, probably go personal. Just because, you know, you heard me say earlier, I traveled quite a bit pre-COVID, and, you know, while my husband worked, it was his responsibility to get every kid where they needed to be. We had a little bit of help from family, things of that nature. But, you know, when kind of the newness of being at home and having the kids finish school at home and we go into the summer, I'm going to tell you that I started really considering, okay, what if we do go back? What does that mean? Because I knew it was not going to be the same as what it was pre-COVID. I didn't need to travel 40% of the time because I was already doing most of what I could do remotely. You know, there's conferences and things of that nature. And a lot of us had to make really big decisions around, you know, were we willing to go to those that were still open? You know, were we willing to still get on a plane? And, you know, I don't really live my life in fear, but when I look at my, you know, my 4-year-old son, is it worth his life? And it's not.
No.
So from a personal perspective, my family we always say family comes first, but it takes something really like this to say, are we doing everything that we're supposed to be doing to put them first? And I wasn't pre-COVID. I didn't have to make that trip. I chose to make that trip.
Right.
And so on a go forward basis, that will be my thought process.
Wow.
Sorry, you know?
Wow. No, Sarah, listen, we hear you, we feel you, and you're right. And I think, listen, what I'm going to say is, I heard a story one week of a woman that was a cancer survivor. And she said, I'm going to say something I learned during chemotherapy that is related to what we're experiencing with COVID. And the nurse said to her, don't ever let cancer be in vain. And I think, don't ever let what we learned during this be in vain. If everything went back, I think we need to look at the world and our choices and what we prioritized differently, regardless of if it goes back. So
Yeah,
Sarah, you're right.
I absolutely agree. And, you know, I hear people drop terms like, well, when it gets back to normal, this is our new normal.
This is it.
This is our new normal. And for those that are not adapting to this new normal, have still need to wake up.
Yeah.
They need somebody or something to happen to help them wake up. And I don't mean that in a negative way.
No.
I just, you're going to get left behind if you don't adjust accordingly. And I don't care if we're talking about work or at home.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
tough right now. I mean, I've heard tons of stories of, you know, families actually having COVID in the home. And families are having to make really tough decisions, not only just about their jobs, but, you know, what's important to them. And, you know, is it worth to go do that? And I think we're seeing that. I mean, I don't know about you, Julie. I know that you're over HR there, but, you know, I took at least 2 calls this week of folks that just wanted to take a step back. They said, I've got stuff going on in my family from a COVID perspective. So we're already drowning in capacity, meaning like a lack of capacity. We're drowning from a volume perspective. Capacity is really hard to find. And now on top of that, this virus, this crisis has now, you know, and you hear my words from a personal perspective. I'm not taking a step back, but I'm reevaluating the things that are more important to me. And families are doing that in our workplaces every day. So, you know, as a leader, you have to kind of think about what is that going to do and how do you plan for that? I don't think any of us sat down and said, okay, volume's going to be X. I'm going to take a 70% pull through and maybe I account for a 5% retention. And oh, by the way, I probably need to think about another 5 to 10% for COVID.
Yeah.
Nobody plans that way, but that is the new normal. It's the new normal.
Yeah. You are hearing more and more of burnout. You're starting between the combination of, like you said, if there is illness in the household or something going on. You know, I had someone, an associate, that she had a best friend that had suicide. They committed suicide 2 weeks ago. I mean, you're hearing mental illness, you're hearing depression. I mean, you're hearing all of these things. And again, like you said, it's not when it goes back to normal. You're right. This is it. And we all have to adjust. And we, you know, although, yes, there's a lot of bad things going on out there, we actually are thriving because as we're adapting, we are thriving. And actually, Sarah, I have a question about, you said that you started school. Did you actually stick with it? Are you still also doing online? Oh, good. All right. Awesome. So right now you've got the kids at home. You're crushing it at your company and you guys are doing great. And you're doing online Is it for your master's? Is it, or something else?
I'm finishing my degree.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great. That's a great goal. That's wonderful.
That's the first time I've said that in public.
Well, now it's out. There you go. Congratulations. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm sure that was a goal that you had out there that you wanted to achieve. And I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bucket list item. It's,
Yep.
At this point, I'm so far down my career that it's not needed. It's more of a,
No,
bucket list.
you're checking the box of something you wanted to accomplish, and that's awesome.
Next thing it'll be skydiving. I don't know.
Awesome. All right. Well, ladies, you are all amazing. I truly appreciate you sharing your stories and your journeys, because remember, everybody out there has a story, and hearing others, it helps you be able to connect and realize that we all have these emotions. We all have these different journeys and stories, and it's relatable because we're all dealing with the crazy volume and all of that too. All right. So now let's hear who will join me next week. So Mo, who do we have?
So I'm going to nominate Skylar Welch, which is a rock star loan officer for Acadia Lending in Maine. I'm so excited for her to share her story here on this platform. Thank you, Laura.
Awesome. Can't wait for Skylar. Looking forward to it. Julie, who do we have?
I'm going to nominate Debbie Mansfield. She's an AE in California with Cardinal. I worked with her at Deep Haven. She's amazing. Great lady.
Wonderful. Well, look forward to hearing her story. Okay, Sarah, who do we have?
All right, I'm going to nominate Kim Lanham. She is head of strategic business development and marketing at Digital Risk in Florida.
Wonderful. Can't wait. Okay, well, ladies, thank you so much. All the best. Have a phenomenal end of the month. We only have one final day left tomorrow. Be well and all the best. Take care.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.